Tonight, we are going to leave the noise of the modern world behind. We are going to travel back to a time when the only clock was the sun, and the only heat came from what you could gather with your own two hands. We are heading into the deep, frozen heart of the American frontier in the late 1800s. It is a place where the cold doesn't just touch your skin, it has a weight to it, a heavy, pressing presence that seeks to find every gap in your coat, every crack in the leather of your boots. You can almost feel it now, can't you? That sharp, crisp sting on your cheeks that tells you the temperature is dropping fast. The air is so brittle it feels like it might shatter if you speak too loudly. This is the silence of the high plains in winter, a silence so profound that the only sounds are the crunch of dry snow underhoof and the rhythmic, steam-clouded breathing of your horse. There are no thermostats here. There are no electric blankets, no insulated walls, no glowing screens to distract you from the dark. There is only you, your horse, a canvas bedroll that has seen better days, and a sky so vast and open it makes you feel like a speck of dust on the edge of eternity. You are about to live through a cowboy's winter, a season where the world freezes into a landscape of white and gray, and where survival depends entirely on clever hands, sheer grit, and perhaps a little bit of luck. Most people today wouldn't last 3 days out here, but you might just make it through the night. So before you settle in, find a comfortable position. Let your shoulders drop. Unclench your jaw. Let the warmth of your room remind you that you are safe, even as your mind travels to a place where safety is a luxury earned by hard work. The wind always arrives before the snow. It isn't the playful breeze of a spring afternoon. This is a low, mournful sound, a long groan that rolls across the flatlands like a physical weight. You pull your wool coat tighter, hunching your shoulders against the gust, feeling the brim of your hat snap and flutter. The sun is already dipping toward the horizon, painting the world in bruised shades of violet, indigo, and a cold metallic gold. It offers light, but no warmth. It is a winter sun, distant and indifferent. As it touches the edge of the earth, the temperature plummets, not gradually, but with a sudden, biting intensity that turns your breath into clouds of ice crystals. Your horse, a sturdy bay mare with a coat grown thick and shaggy for the season, snorts loudly. Twin plumes of steam shoot from her nostrils, dissipating instantly in the dry air. She knows what is coming. The cattle know it too. You look out over the herd, hundreds of dark shapes against the whitening ground. Their hides are thick, dusted with frost, but even they feel the deep chill seeping into their bones. They have stopped grazing. Instead, they are huddling together, instinctively forming a living wall against the elements, their tails turned to the wind, lowing in a quiet collective misery. You can't blame them. The mercury is falling faster than a stone, and you haven't found a proper place to make camp yet. You nudge the mare forward, riding ahead of the other hands. Your eyes scan the landscape, looking for anything that breaks the flat monotony of the plains. You aren't looking for comfort. Comfort is a memory from a different life. You are looking for survival. A gully, a dry creek bed, a stand of twisted cottonwood trees. Anything that might cut the wind and offer a few degrees of protection. The prairie stretches out endlessly, a sheet of white broken only by the dark, humped shapes of sagebrush poking through the snow. It feels as though the world is shrinking, contracting down to the small space between you and your horse's ears. Historians and old-timers still argue about where the winter hit harder in those days. Was it the northern plains of Montana and the Dakotas, where the wind chill could freeze a man's lungs in minutes? Or was it the high deserts of the Southwest, where the dry cold cracked your skin until every movement was a small agony? Tonight, it doesn't matter. You are somewhere in between, caught under a canopy of stars that are beginning to prick through the twilight, sharp and hard as diamonds. You spot a depression in the land near a frozen creek. It's not much. The water is a sheet of thick, opaque ice, and the ground is uneven, frozen into ridges of mud that are as hard as iron. But out here, you take what the land gives you. You dismount, your boots hitting the frozen earth with a dull thud. Your knees are stiff from hours in the saddle, and you take a moment to steady yourself, patting the mare's neck. Her warmth radiates through your glove, a small reminder of life in this frozen stillness. You begin the work of making camp. It is a ritual, a series of movements performed 1,000 times until they are muscle memory. You gather wood first. It is scarce here, mostly dead branches of scrub brush and twisted roots exposed by the wind. The wood is brittle, snapping with a sharp crack that echoes too loudly in the quiet air. Your fingers ache inside your leather gloves. The cold makes them clumsy, fumbling with the flint and steel. Strike, strike, strike. It takes focus. Finally, a spark catches, a tiny, fragile orange glow in a nest of dry grass. You blow it gently, coaxing it to life. A curl of gray smoke rises, smelling of sage and dry earth, and then the soft, miraculous crackle of flame. The relief is almost physical. It starts in your face, the heat loosening the tight skin of your cheeks, and then moves to your hands as you hold them out toward the fire. The light spills across your boots, glinting off the metal of your spurs. For a moment, you just stare at it, hypnotized by the dance of energy in a frozen world. The others arrive slowly, ghosts emerging from the twilight. Their faces are wrapped in scarves, hats pulled low, leading their horses with the stiff, careful gait of men who are cold down to their marrow. Old Walt is with them. He's a man who looks like he was carved out of dried leather and sagebrush. He mutters something about this cold just being a tickle compared to the winter of '86. You've heard his stories before. He claims to have seen snow so deep a steer could walk over a corral fence without touching the rails. You chuckle, the sound small and dry. Whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The story itself is a kind of warmth. As the night truly takes hold, the temperature continues its downward slide. You wrap your wool blanket tighter, pulling it up to your chin. The sky above is a vast, indifferent dome of black, scattered with stars that do not twinkle, they stare. Somewhere in the distance, a coyote yips, a lonely, high-pitched sound that seems to underline the isolation. Your fire sputters, popping as it consumes a pocket of sap in the wood. You reach into your saddlebag and pull out a strip of jerky. It is hard as a boot sole, requiring you to gnaw at it, but it is food. You wash it down with coffee boiled in a tin pot. Coffee so strong and bitter, it feels like it coats your throat with tar. It tastes of metal and smoke, and right now, it is the best thing you have ever tasted. There is a strange, paradoxical comfort in this hardship. The world has been simplified. There are no complex problems here, no politics, no social ladders to climb. There are only simple, brutal truths: fire, food, shelter, companionship. You cannot afford to think about the spring thaw. That is a lifetime away. You can only think about the next hour, the next log for the fire, the next time you have to stand up and check the horses. The mare shifts behind you, the leather of her saddle creaking in the cold. You murmur to her, a low, rhythmic stream of nonsense words. Easy now, girl. We're all right. Just a long night, that's all. Your voice seems to calm her. It calms you, too. It's funny how the sound of a human voice can push back the encroaching wild, creating a small circle of order in the chaos of nature. You remember reading once in an old ranching manual that you could tell the temperature by the sound snow made under your boots. A high-pitched squeak meant it was below zero. A dull crunch meant it was bearable. You shift your feet now. Squeak, squeak, high and sharp. It's going to be a long night. You toss another piece of wood on the fire, watching the sparks rise up to join the stars.
You lean back against your saddle, using it as a pillow, and pull the blanket over your head to trap your breath. The wool scratches your face, smelling of horse and damp earth, but it holds the heat. The wind has died down for the moment, but you can hear it high above, moving through the upper atmosphere like a distant train that never arrives. In that space between waking and sleeping, your mind drifts to the men who did this before you. The first vaqueros, the trailblazers, the young men who pushed cattle north from Texas with nothing but a slicker and a prayer. They saw these same stars. They felt this same biting cold. They were young, reckless, and convinced they were invincible. The prairie remembers them, even if the history books have forgotten their names. Morning comes not with a burst of light, but with a slow, gray lifting of the dark. The cold is not left, it has simply become visible. The world is a monochrome painting of white snow, gray sky, and black trees. You wake stiff, your joints protesting as you sit up. The fire is dead, just a circle of black ash and charred wood. You look around. The other men are stirring, emerging from their bedrolls like bears waking from hibernation. Boots stamp against the hard ground. Scarves are re-wrapped. It is time to make a proper camp. The storm that passed last night was just a skirmish. The real winter war is coming. If you want to survive the next few months, you need more than a bedroll. You need shelter. There are no barns out here, no cabins with smoking chimneys waiting for you. You have to build your world from scratch. You work with what you have: canvas tarps, wagon boards, and scavenged logs from windfall timber. You start with a lean-to. It's a crude structure, just a wall to turn the wind. You dig through the snow to the frozen earth, driving stakes with the back of an axe. The sound of metal on wood rings out, sharp and rhythmic. You stretch the canvas tight, lashing it down. When the wind hits it, the canvas drums, a low, steady beat like a giant heart. It isn't much, but it breaks the gale. Historians examining the lives of these frontiermen often debate their living conditions. Did they prefer the open sky, claiming it kept them honest, or did they crave the enclosure of a tent? The truth is likely practical. When the blizzard screams, any wall is a blessing. You move slowly, your fingers clumsy with the cold, but the work warms you. You chop wood, you drag brush, you tie ropes. The air fills with the scent of pine sap and sweat. The horses stand close by, their tails flicking. They understand that this activity means safety. You recall a quirky old trick some of the old-timers used, building walls out of prairie coal or dried buffalo chips when there was no wood. They would stack them like bricks, creating windbreaks. It wasn't glamorous, and when the thaw came, it smelled terrible. But in the teeth of a norther, those walls saved lives. Tonight, you wish you had a pile of them. When the shelter is finished, it looks like a cross between a tent and a burrow. You crawl inside to test it. The ground is hard, but dry. The wind outside is reduced to a dull murmur. The canvas shifts and creaks, sounding like the rigging of an old sailing ship. You can almost imagine you are at sea, drifting across an ocean of white. Walt pokes his head in, his beard frosted white. "Might just make it," he says, his voice raspy. You nod. He leaves to help the others secure the chuck wagon. The crew works with a quiet efficiency. No one talks much. The wind fills the silence, doing the talking for everyone. You build a small fire pit just outside the shelter's opening, lining it with stones dug from the frozen creek bank. You get a fire going, keeping it small and controlled. You warm a tin of beans, stirring them with a stick, watching the steam twist upward. The food feels bland, just sustenance, but it sits heavy and warm in your stomach. Food feels different out here. It's not about pleasure, it's about fuel. It's about putting miles of energy into your body so you don't freeze. The sky begins to change again. Clouds roll in from the west, low, heavy, and slate gray. Snowflakes begin to fall, large and silent. The horses shift, sensing the change in pressure. You tighten the guy ropes on the tent. You pile snow against the bottom of the canvas for insulation, using the cold to fight the cold. It's an irony that isn't lost on you. Inside the lean-to, the firelight flickers against the canvas walls, creating a warm golden glow. It feels almost human, like company. You lie back, pulling your hat over your eyes. Outside, the snow thickens. It falls faster and faster, muting every sound until the world feels like it has been wrapped in cotton. You think of the drovers who came before, pushing cattle up the Chisholm Trail or the Goodnight Loving Trail. They faced this without maps, without forecasts, without any guarantee that spring would find them alive. Some ranchers kept ledgers, tallying the losses. In the winter of 1886, entire herds vanished. They walked into drifts and never walked out. Yet every year men came back. They returned to the same cruel land, drawn by something they couldn't name. You look toward the horizon, barely visible through the falling snow. It is strange how beauty and danger are woven so tightly together here. The cold sky gleams like polished steel. Every breath feels like inhaling glass shards. But it is beautiful, terrifyingly beautiful.
The horses have settled. You can hear the creak of their saddles, the occasional clink of a bit or chain. You whisper a few words to the night. It's not exactly a prayer, but it's close. It's a bargain. Just let us hold on. Just let us see the morning. The fire burns down to coals. The snow piles up against the canvas, sealing you in. You close your eyes and listen to your own heartbeat, slow and steady, matching the rhythm of the plains. Tomorrow, you will wake to a white world. You will check the herd. You will fix what is broken. You will keep moving, because that is what cowboys do when the frost comes early. You survive. Morning comes pale and hard. A thin ribbon of light struggles over the horizon. The cold has changed. It is no longer a sharp wind, but a deep, pervasive freeze. The frost on your mustache melts for a second when you breathe, then freezes again instantly. Your horse's mane is frozen stiff, standing up in icy spikes. Nearby, a cow bellows, a flat, distressed sound that carries for miles in the thin air. You pull on your gloves, kicking your boots against a rock to wake up your toes. It is time for the daily ritual, keeping the herd alive. The first thing you learn is that cattle are fragile. They look tough, big beasts with horns and thick hides, but their lungs can freeze, their hooves can crack. You have to keep them moving, keep them from bunching up and suffocating each other or freezing in place. You swing an axe at the frozen pond, chipping through the crust to open a watering hole. Thwack, thwack. Ice shards fly up, catching the light like diamonds. The water below steams, black and oily. Some old-timers say cattle can smell a storm coming hours before the first flake falls. They say the cows will turn their tails to the wind and bunch up. You watch them now, shaggy backs rising and falling, a sea of patience. You remember hearing about a trick where cowboys would cut branches from cottonwood trees for the cattle to eat the bark when the grass was buried too deep. It sounds desperate. It sounds impossible. But you test it. You strip a few twigs and toss them near a steer. To your surprise, the animal begins to chew, steam puffing from its nose. Desperation breeds ingenuity. You see Walt at the edge of the group, hunched over, coiling a frozen rope. His hands are gloved, but you know his knuckles are cracked and bleeding beneath the leather. Out here, small injuries are dangerous. A scratch can fester. A blister can become an infection that takes a leg. You wrap a scrap of clean cloth around a cut on your own hand, tying the knot with your teeth. It's ugly, but it works. You see a cow limping. You ride over, your horse wading through thigh-deep snow. The cow's leg is stiff with ice. There isn't much you can do but break the ice off and try to get her moving toward the center of the herd, where the body heat is trapped. In 1886, a rancher in Wyoming wrote that his cattle stood frozen like statues, dying on their feet. That image haunts you. You shout at the cow, whistling, waving your hat, forcing her to take a step, then another. The cold steals oases.
When you try to yell to Sam across the herd, the sound is thin and breathless. You rely on hand signals, a wave, a point, a nod. It is a silent language born of necessity. As the sun climbs higher, it offers blinding light, but no heat. The glare off the snow is painful. You squint, pulling your hat brim down. You spot two calves half buried in a drift, too weak to rise. You whistle for help. Two other riders appear. You don't need to speak. You lift the calves onto makeshift sleds made of hide and branches, dragging them back toward the fire. By the time you get back, your lungs are burning. Someone hands you coffee. It's weak and full of grounds, but the heat of the tin cup against your frozen palms is ecstasy. You sip it slowly. You watch a hawk circling overhead, its wings catching the sunlight. It seems unbothered by the cold. It belongs here in a way you never will. You are an intruder. The hawk is a resident. The day drags on. You check fences, clear drifts, count heads. Routine becomes religion. If you stop, you freeze. If you stop, you start to think too much about how far you are from civilization. So you work. You embrace the rhythm. Feed, check, mend, ride. Researchers debate whether the winter of 1886-87 truly ended the era of the open range. It was called the Big Die-Up. Hundreds of thousands of cattle perished. It broke the spirit of the cowboy king, forcing the industry to change, to use fences, to grow hay for winter feed. Some say it was a tragedy. Others say it was just nature correcting the arrogance of men who thought they could conquer the plains. The light begins to fade again, the gold sliding back into gray. You finish your coffee and toss the grounds into the snow. The herd settles. A low mist formed by their breath drifts over their backs. You look up at the stars appearing one by one. They are indifferent. They do not care if you live or die. And in that indifference, there is a strange freedom. You are responsible for yourself, you and the men around you. By dawn, the cold has teeth. Your gloves are stiff before you put them on. The air feels brittle. You wake to the ache in your fingers, the frostbite that never really heals. It's a companion now. You check your saddle. The leather is frozen hard. If you cinch it too fast, it will crack. You have to warm it with your hands, rubbing the leather, breathing on it. Some drovers slept with their saddles to keep them pliable. You hold your hands to the fire, the pain of returning circulation feeling like electric shocks. Your nails are purple, the skin is red and raw. Your horse stands nearby, covered in a rime of frost. You brush the ice from her mane, her ears twitch. Horses suffered just as much. Their hooves would split in the extreme cold. You check her feet, cleaning out the packed snow. She nudges you, a silent thank you. You ride out to circle the cattle. The horizon is pink. The wind is picking up from the north, sharp, dry, dangerous. Your face goes numb. You try not to touch it. Rubbing frostbitten skin only damages it more. You keep moving. There's movement on the ridge. Wolves. They have been following for days. Shadowy shapes against the snow. They are patient. They are smart. They know the herd is weakening. You grip your reins. Your horse dances nervously. Frontier journals speak of wolves with respect and fear. They were competitors. They didn't just scavenge, they hunted. When the snow was deep and the cattle bogged down, the wolves feasted. You see 4 of them. They move in a line, fluid and silent. You raise your rifle, but they are out of range. You can't waste the bullet. Instead, you light a torch and plant it in the snow. The flickering light casts long, jumping shadows. The wolves stop. They watch. Their eyes reflect the firelight. For a long moment, it is a standoff. Then they turn and vanish into the gloom. "They'll be back," Walt says, appearing beside you. You nod. You know they will.
You ride a slow loop. The fire has burned down to coals. You add a log. The smell of smoke and leather is the perfume of your life. You listen for the wolves again, but the plains are silent. Some cowboys name the wolves. One man wrote about a gray wolf he called Ghost that trailed his herd for 3 years. You wonder if these wolves have names. You wonder if they have names for you. You sit by the fire for a while, cleaning your rifle. The metal is cold and slick with oil. The stars shimmer above, caught in the ice crystals in the air. Life moves quietly out there. Deer, rabbits, other men, perhaps. You realize you are just one small part of this vast, frozen machine. You climb into your bedroll. The ground is hard, but you are too tired to care. You stare up at the sky. The stars are blurring into a silver haze. You sleep without dreams. The snow does not stop for 3 days. It falls in a relentless curtain. The camp shrinks. You live in a twilight world of white. You lose track of time. You measure the day in cups of coffee and shifts in the wind. When you wake, your breath has frozen to the blanket. You push the flap of the tent open. The world is still. The wind has died. The snow is piled high in drifts that curve like waves frozen in time. The fence is buried. The cattle are huddled so close they look like a single organism. They are mooing low, a sound of distress. Snowbound, Walt says. You know what it means. No supplies, no wood runs. You have to make do. You ration the food, beans once a day, coffee that is mostly water. You break down a broken wagon wheel for fuel. The wood splits with a sharp retort. You try reading an old newspaper to pass the time. The news is months old. Politics, a train wreck back east. It feels like fiction. Walt tells a story about a winter storm he survived years ago. He claims he burned a saddle to stay warm. The men laugh, but it's a nervous laugh. Everyone knows how close that reality is. You stare at the fire. The flames dance. The smell of burning oak and old coffee fills the tent. It's a good smell, a living smell. Sam steps out, coughing. His fever is down, but he looks thin. Smells like mud, he says, sniffing the air. You smile. Mud means life. The cattle are moving more freely now. They shake the ice from their coats. You see patches of brown earth appearing where the wind has scoured the snow away. It looks like a miracle. You touch the dirt with a gloved hand. It is hard, but it is there. Walt hums a tune as he sharpens his knife. Sam checks the creek for strays. The ordinary tasks feel special today. You realize how much of your life is built on these small, repetitive acts. They are the glue that holds the day together. You pull out your notebook. The pages are stained and wrinkled. You read your own handwriting, shaky, filled with fear and hope. You write one last line. We lived through the frozen days, and they lived through us. Walt looks over. Good line, he says. Might make a story someday. Then tell it right. Make sure they remember the quiet parts. The final weeks of winter slip away. The snow retreats to the shadows. The air turns wet and heavy with the scent of pine and thawed earth. You wake to birdsong, a meadowlark calling from a fence post. It stops you in your tracks. It is the first music you haven't made yourself in months. The camp looks different in the light. Muddy, messy, real. The cattle wander further out. The horses nicker at the sunrise. The wind is warm on your face. You pack up the gear. The tins clink in the wagon. The canvas is rolled tight. You take one last look at the circle of ash where your fire burned all winter. It marks the spot where you survived. You mount your horse. The leather is supple again. The air is sweet. You ride toward the horizon, leaving the winter behind. But you carry it with you, in the ache of your fingers, in the quiet of your mind, in the knowledge that you can endure. The world is vast. The road is long. But for now, the sun is warm, and you are going home.